Hi everyone, it is Azure Thursdays again, and we are happy to welcome you to this evening's stream. We have three amazing speakers tonight. We start off with Dawood Iddris. He's a software developer and the CEO of Techloud, and he's going to help us build a web app with Cosmos DB and Node.js on Azure. Next, we have Scott Hanselman, and we all know him, of course, but he's a programmer and a teacher and a speaker, and he's going to tell us how he moves his whole Hanselman online mess to Azure. At last, we have Carol Rennie Logan, and she's going to talk about how you can get started with Blazor.
Cool, that seems like three really great sessions. So welcome everyone also from my side, and thank you so much for joining the Azure Thursday. Still 4 minutes before we start, so I wanted to talk with you about the prizes you can win. You might have seen it already in the chat. That is on your left or right hand. I don't know where to point, but on one of these sides. So what are we going to do? There is going to be a link, which I'm showing on the screen now. You can fill in that form. But to fill in that form, you need to gather 3 secret codes that we are going to show you throughout the meetup. So in every talk, you will get 1 code. So you will have to look at all the talks. Then you fill in the form, you submit it, and we will pick everyone out, and then we will use a random generator name picker to draw the prizes. So be aware, these prizes are shipped from the UK, and they are from our sponsor. And the sponsor is Squared Up, and they're shipped from the UK. So if you apply and you win and we ship them, you need to pay import taxes probably. So be aware of that when you fill in the form. As you see, I think below us, you see that we have Billy, and Billy will help us interpret it or do sign language for our complete meetup. So let us know what you find of that in the chat, and if you want to see it in more episodes. So I want to invite our first guest, Dawood. I will add him to the stream. Hi, Dawood.
Hi, Hank. I'm doing awesome. I'm doing great. And nice to have me here.
Yes.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Hi,
It
welcome.
must be a nice day for you, because my Twitter feed was like exploding because you tagged me in something.
I actually noticed it. So earlier on yesterday, I think later on I had to avoid, replying and tagging you, because I was like, oh, today you're going to get like 5,000 messages already. I'm so sorry for messing up though.
I felt very popular.
Yeah, actually, you're the most popular guy. Yeah,
So
actually, I think it was a good news to me and then to the community, and that Hank actually, I think it was 2 months back, we had the Global AI virtual on tour. And while I was hosting the session, I was a speaker. So I was speaking on, AI and how people could easily understand it, right? And right after I was done, I received an email in my box saying that I've been nominated. And I was like, wow, what's on earth? I didn't imagine it coming. I didn't see it coming. I didn't request for it. And gone like 2019, when people said I should become an MVP, and I was looking for someone to nominate me. But here lies someone who nominated me. So so I was nominated, and yesterday, whilst I was in a call with Maxim Muller and a cloud advocate, and I saw the email saying congratulations. So congratulations to me and Hank and everyone within the community, because this was our effort, right?
Yeah, it is very good, and it's a great thing for the community to have you on board.
Yeah.
So, but before you joined, you are or still am a Microsoft student partner, and I think many of our viewers heard and know what Microsoft MVPs are. But I don't think everyone knows what the student partners do. So can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, extremely yes. So actually, Microsoft has what is known as the community leaders, right? So the community leaders is made up of MVPs, Microsoft Most Valuable Professionals, MSPs, Microsoft Student Partners, and then regional, directors, RDPs. All right. So these three, people form, the Microsoft community leaders. So if you're an MSP, then you might be a student. You should be a student, enroll in the university, and then you can apply with on studentambassadors.microsoft.com, and you go through a process of scrutiny, and you would be accepted based on your contributions. So with MSPs, our main job is actually to spread positivity and to spread technology throughout our campuses and then across the country as much as we can, from campus to citywide. So that is simply what the MSP program is about.
That is nice. That is nice. Is it also connected to like the Imagine Cup, or is that something completely different?
Oh, awesome. So I needed to put this down. So you see Imagine Cup there. Yeah, so we have Imagine Cup and we have the Student Partner Program, and we are very lucky to have Pablo Veramendi, who is the same program manager for both programs, right? So it's two separate things, but then the MSP program, being led by the Imagine Cup, manager. The same time, we help promote the Imagine Cup to students, because obviously, Imagine Cup is for students, so it's just great that student ambassadors would help promote it to our campuses.
That is nice. That is good. So I see it is like 6:30 here in the Netherlands, where the Azure Thursday is founded from. What are you going to talk about?
So today my main focus is actually going to be about Microsoft has one of these biggest computer in the world, right? Not even Microsoft, but there's this biggest computer in the world called Azure. And this computer has tons of resource, making it so much easy, has like tons of, setup and configurations already for you. And you can consume most of this as, services, right? So we are going to leverage our skills that we have in Node.js to try to, see how exactly we can connect our application, which is on our desktop, to this biggest computer in the world called Microsoft Azure. So we would have a database sitting in the cloud, and then we will try to communicate with it.
Cool. Is it going to involve a live demo?
Yes, it will actually involve a live demo. So I wanted to do something like build up the whole code, and I was like, no, we are going to have newcomers joining us today, right? I want them to go away with inspiration, right? I want them to go away with the fact that they can actually start their Node.js journey, because it is just when someone shows it to you and tell you how easy it is, then you can actually do it. So I'll try to start from scratch, but maybe in the middle part I'll try to because we don't have much time, I'll just show a complete application and how exactly it looks like to connect to such databases.
Perfect. Cool. Then you can share your screen.
Yes, absolutely.
Good luck.
Thank you.
If you have any questions for Dawood, you can ask them in the chat. We have also on this player, we are using a new player. You can use some subtitles as well. Good luck.
Awesome. So let me know if you can see my screen. Then we'll be up and running. Hank, you can confirm to me if you see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen. So take it
All
away.
right. Okay, thank you so much. So I think just because we are, trying to target everyone within, the world, I'll just begin from scratch, all right? So you probably might have heard of Node.js, right? And Node.js is a JavaScript runtime built on Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. And on top of Node.js, a lot of, frameworks have actually been built, right? One of the most popular framework is actually called Express. I'm going to show you Express right now. So this is Express. If you go to npm.js package /Express, you will be able to see it. Now look at something. How many weekly downloads do we have so far, right? that's about 12 million, which means a large amount of people are actually within the the Node community and are consuming Express, which means when you begin your journey, you would actually get help whenever needed. So we're going to be using this particular framework, and mostly when we talk about Node.js, mostly you see this main stack, which is MongoDB, Express, probably Angular, and also Node.js itself. So we are going to be using Node.js as our database. All right. So if you are new to it, don't worry. I'll just try to begin from scratch, and then I'll show you the final product. All right. So let's start. So to begin with Node.js, you actually need to download this Nodejs application right in here. Once you download it in your download folder, you will actually see it here as part of it. You just need to double click on it to start installing. Once you're done installing, you'll be good to go. One thing that you need to also take care of is to actually install GitHub, right? Git bash for your desktop, so that you're able to communicate with your version control, your GitHub account itself. And also, if you want, you can actually install MongoDB easily. But one good thing that Azure actually gives us is that with with Azure Cosmos DB, which is actually it takes the administrative tasks from us. So for example, I would have installed MongoDB on my desktop, but I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to go into Microsoft Azure, and then I'll create a MongoDB database over there. So I'm just going to log into portal.azure.com. I'll create a resource. I'll click on that, create a resource, and I will scroll down to databases. I will scroll down a bit more to Azure Cosmos DB. Once I click on Azure Cosmos DB, so this is a globally distributed multimodal, fully managed database service. So whether you want to actually use whatever being your use case, you'll be able to get an API that connects to that perfect database that you want. For example, you could connect to Cassandra, Azure Table, and Cosmos DB. You can read more about this. But today we are going to focus on MongoDB. Then immediately we need to just create an account, right? So we need to give our account a name. Okay, so maybe I'm going to call this to do build. Okay, so today we are going to build a to-do application. That is what we are going to try to do. And every other thing, I'll just leave it to the default. But because Microsoft Azure is a huge computer and has a lot of resource, everything that you create, you need to put it in a resource group, all right, so that you are able to manage it easily. So I will just put this in one of the resource group I created. However, you can just click on this particular create new to create a new resource. And once you are done, I will scroll down, leave the location to be somewhere nearer to me. And if I, also enable geo redundancy, this particular data would also be replicated in this in East US. All right. So I will just leave everything default, and I'll click on create, review, and create for now. Once I'm done with that, it will just review to see whether I'm good to go. And if I'm good to go, then I would, be able to click on create. When I click on create, it will take some, minutes, and then it will get, installed for us. So this is probably the good way. Let's now begin, building a Node application. Okay, so Scott is going to tell you something. You check up on some of his blog, and Scott actually has this amazing thing called Windows Terminal push that he wrote. It allows you to actually see, have a feel of a real terminal, right? You can open multiple tasks and all that. That's really fun. So I'm just going to navigate into my desktop folder, and I think I have a folder called CodeMon. I think I should probably try listing it before, see whether I really have. Oh, okay, it's called CodeMon. So I will just go into my CodeMon folder. I'll clear everything. I think one thing I'm going to try to do is actually to make a folder, all right? Make a directory. This directory is going to be called to-do build, all right? So this is the application I'm trying to build, okay? Then I can then navigate into that particular to-do build folder. If you feel I'm actually going fast, trust me, this session is recorded. You can rewatch it again, all right? But try your best to follow along, okay? I'm going to take it incremental step to make sure you understand everything. So to start building a Node application, you need to run, npm init. All right. And then you supply it with the -y flag. So this will give us, a template to start on, a package.json file. And because we already know that we also we need to install Express as one of the popular framework, I'm just going to install that in here, okay? Once I'm done with that, the next thing I'm going to try to do is actually to pull in another package, which I will explain to you why I'm actually pulling it in. So let's put that package in. Okay, and I'm going to save that particular package so that when I push everything to live, that particular package doesn't get installed at all. So I'll just, save it to my dev dependency, and I'll call it, it's actually called NodeMoon. All right. I'll tell you why I'm pulling this guy in. All right. So imagine that everything is done successfully. It means that we can actually open our VS Code, our test editor, and begin to code. So let's open that. So I'm just going to open that with this. All right. And you can see it displayed right in here for me. Cool. So what do we have? So far we've created a folder called to do build. We've actually pulled in a package.json file. Our package.json file has helped us to pull in, Express and also NodeMoon. All right. So NodeMoon will just help us to make sure it will just keep an eye on all of our files. Should we make any changes that are not really going well, it is going to prompt us. Okay. So what do we have to do next is that I'm just going to create a folder. This folder is going to be called SLC, which is a source folder. All right. This source folder will contain all, files, that like my source code. So the first code I really need is actually the index.js. You can see that my package.json file is actually saying that Dawood, you actually have, your entry point to be the index.js. All right. So I'll just create that. Once I have that, I can then pull in, the Express package that I want. I can pull it in. And remember, we just installed this particular, package. So we've put it in successfully. What we can also do is to, create an instance, right? A copy of this particular Express app. So we would just, assign it to the Express instance. So once we have this, it means that we can then tell our application that, hey, boy, listen when anyone mentions 3000, okay? And I will then pass in a function, callback function, which will basically say to us whether or not we are connected or not, and then the port that we are connected to. So I'm going to say, hey, guy. No, I say, hey, folks, rather. Try to be very inclusive. And I'll say, listen to, and I'll just connect to, the port that I'm listening to, which is port, I'll just say localhost. Oh, sorry. And probably give it, the path, which is going to say that, boy, 3000. Okay. So this is actually giving us a good start. So as of now, we can pull in, we can go back to, our terminal to keep doing this, because I actually love this interface. Thanks to Scott for, that block. So I'm going to pull in right here in VS Code. I'm going to pull in the terminal, and I can then run that I want to start this particular application. Before we do that, let's also make sure that we are actually going to our script. And then we write that when someone mentions, dev, then it should basically call on NodeMoon and then call the source folder and call the index.js file. Okay, so once we have this, we can then come down here and then we try to run npm should run the dev for us. Okay, and you can see that our app is live. Hey, you just actually wrote, your first Node application, and then you're already connecting to the server. What more can we do? I'm really going to focus on, making sure that we have database pulled in, because that is the main agenda of this particular session. So to do that, I'm going to create a folder, and then this folder is going to be called setup. When I create my setup folder, I will then create another file, a file in there called database. And I actually love this way of writing the code, because I actually I think this is quite organized as well. So I love this way. Okay, so this database file is going to help us to set up our database, and then whatever file that we keep adding to this setup file or whatever here, we'll just keep notifying our index.js file that, hey, I just pulled in this guy, I just pulled in this guy, so that our app is, well notified of everything, happening. Do you get the idea? So what I'm going to do is to now open another partial, and then I would then create that I will tell my app that, hey, please pull in someone for me. And this particular person is going to be called MongoDB. Okay, so npm install MongoDB. This would pull in MongoDB for us. So MongoDB package would help us to be able to, connect to our database that we've deployed in here. Okay, so database account to do is not online, no problem. Let's see what happens. Okay. So for now, let me just drop down so I don't make you confused. So I just put in, MongoDB. Once I actually put in MongoDB, the next thing I'm going to try to do is that when someone is sending a request from, the browser to our application, we need some sort of a middleman, all right? Now, this middleman would be able to interpret and say that, okay, this particular, data that was passed, let's just, make it a JSON format so that our application is able to understand and fetch data from database and make all the manipulation logic and return it back to the person, all right? So to do that, we need to pull in a particular package called, this package is actually called body parser. Okay, so body parser will do all those, middleman job for us. Okay, so once I have it in here, I'm going to come to my database and I'll pull in, I'll create a middleware. Don't worry, I said middleman, but actually I mean middleware. All right, so that was just an attempt to help you understand. And I'll create a middleware, file. So now that I actually have this particular middleware pulled in, I will create a variable called body parser, and I'll require it in. And once I do that, I'll then call my body parser in here. All right, so now we have body parser in the particular file. So every file within this setup, we are going to export it, okay? So I will just call model.export. I'll just tell model, please export, a function. And when you are exporting the function, okay, so this is ES6 syntax. When you are exporting the function, please make sure that you tell my application to use the body parser, all right? So I'll call body parser and say JSON, all right? So this makes sense a lot, which means that this is a function that we are going to use, and then we are going to pass in app, and then we will tell the app that please use this guy, all right? So I'll save my file, and then I can now go to my index.js. Whatever file that we are actually pulling in, we have a nice name to give it. Thanks to Kathy for this, actually. And then I will pull in set up, middleware. All right, middleware. All right, then I will just require in that particular file we just created, which is inside here, and I'll call in middleware. All right, which means now we have the middleware function existing within our application. Okay, let me try not to mess up this guy. Okay. Okay, I think I just tried to mess him up a bit, but I'll then come back to my index.js. And you can see the setup middleware is now a function. So we can call this function and then, okay, copy this guy again. And then I'll just pass in the app. Once, I have the setup middleware function called, I am passing in the app to this particular middleware, all right? The next thing is that we just want to connect to the database. That's the most important thing we are doing in this particular episode. So I'll pull in MongoDB. All right, then, so you can see that the format is basically the same. I want you to feel this is way easy to learn, right? And would then, model export. Remember, I told you earlier that we would export every file in here, all right? So when exporting this guy, I'm just going to say that, hello, when exporting, please make sure that, you export the MongoDB for me, okay? So I'm going to declare a function called client. And this function called client is going to call the MongoDB and Mongo clients, all right? And yeah, so it will create a new instance of the Mongo client, okay? So I'm going to new this guy up. Once I new this guy up, I'm going to come down here, and then I would say that, hey, I need to declare a variable called URI, okay? And this is probably not going to be the best way to connect, to put your URI, your endpoint in your application, but this would actually work, all right? This would do the job for us because I'm really trying that everyone should be able to pick something out of here. Then I'll then create a database name. So this database name is actually going to be called to-do DB, okay? And once I have the name in here and I have the Mongo clients, the next thing I can actually do is to call this particular Mongo client and then tell it that, hey, Mongo client, please do some bit of stuff for me. But I'm going to call this function called async, all right? Anytime you have async, it only means that you are actually, you've been promised to receive some particular value, from elsewhere, all right, from a thread. Then I'll just call in, the await function and say that, hey, when I'm waiting for a function to actually return, please return the client connect to me, all right? Once you actually return the client, I want to return this particular client to my application, right? So I'll call client.db. Okay, then I can pass in the database name. You remember, right? So I created a variable and added it here. Okay, so this is way better, a way to actually connect to, your database. Let me see whether I'm making sense here. Or I'm actually, okay, so the next thing is that we need to pass in the URI, right? The link to connect to our database, which is in the cloud. Then we'll pass in a particular, URI, which is very important. It is called use unified topology. Okay, so now if we don't pass in this, it is actually going to throw an error to us. So I'm going to call that particular use unified topology to be true. Okay, so at this point, we can screw up. This is all that we've done. Let me pull this guy down a bit. Okay, so to connect to our database, we know that whenever we call this particular file, it's going to return a database instance for us, right? So to do that, let's just come back to our file here. And then we set up middleware. I think we are setting up database, right? So that actually makes sense a lot. So we require in this guy, and then I will just say that, hey, please put in the file that we just created, which is a database. So our database is going to be here. And once you know the database is called, it would actually have something really cool to return to us, which is actually the DB instance coming in. So to start, I'm going to create an async function again. Okay, and this function is going to be called start. And once I have the start function called in here, I'm going to make sure that I await for the database instance that is coming in. Okay, remember, this is going to be a function which is actually returning a database instance to our application. So I'm going to create a particular variable called DB to represent the database, instance that is coming into our application. And when I have it, I can actually console log the database instance. Okay. So by now you should be asking me a question. Where is this URI that Dawood is actually connecting to? So I'm going to cut this particular function and then paste it in here, saying that until the start function is called and database connection is established, please do not call my, start my server until everything is ready. So I'll then console.log. Okay. I'll console the error itself so that we're able to see if there's any error, we just, catch that particular error. Okay, so this is actually making a huge amount of sense by now. And you can see all that we are doing is just, setting up our application. And I'm sure this should be really easy for you. For now, I'm just going to skip this deployment resource Node.js field. I think I might have some error somewhere, but that is a way to create, a MongoDB API and then connect to it. So I have one deployed successfully. We have less time to actually go. I'll just call this particular, one that I created earlier. And once, you deploy your Cosmos DB, which is your MongoDB on it, you can then scroll down and say connection string, okay? So connection string will basically give you the URI to connect to. The URI I'm going to connect to is actually the primary connection string. And I'll paste that particular URI inside my database file. I'm going to scroll up. Okay. So if you already know about, Node.js, I'm sure probably you've seen a different way of actually putting the pieces, in separate files. And if you are new to it, please don't worry, don't get confused. You can watch it a second time and everything should be clear, all right? Like magic, right? So now I can then call, nodemon. Nodemon should be running already in here. And if you have any error, okay, see in here, okay? When this start function was called, already nodemon is telling us that you've already connected to a database. So see, we've actually connected to our database, which is in Azure, right? So we already have a database connection established. So this is way easier to, create a database within a cloud, create a MongoDB, and then also create your Node.js application, and then find a way of easily connecting to this particular application. Remember, with console.log, that is why everything is showing in here. I'm sure you're going to have some questions from me, so I'm going to try to answer it, all right? But for now, I wish we could go more. Now, the only thing I want to tell you is that learning never stops here, so we can do something more on our own if you enjoy the session. So let's just do one more thing, all right? Let me just show you one more, scaffoldings that we could do. So now we have middleware, and then we put in the middleware at the top. Now, when we had the middleware, we put it at the top before the database and everything so that our application will get noticed that we have a middleware in here, all right? Then one thing that we can do is to create in our setup file something called router. Okay, so router basically takes care of saying that, hey, if someone visits /register, the endpoints called register or login, then it should route to a specific resource, pull in all the resources that it needed, and then, bring it back to the person who is calling for it, provided that the person is authenticated or has right to actually access that particular data, right? So if you want to create a router, it's just this simple. So you just say router, then you actually require in, Express. So Express kind of helps us to do all the routing stuff, okay? And this could be our router instance. So we call our router. Remember, the basic flow is that we always have a model.export. And then whilst exporting this guy, we would, then also say that, hey, when exporting, okay, I need to create a new instance called a router. Okay, so I'll call off router. I'll call new router. Okay, so I'll also notify my app that, hey, I have, a router in here. Okay, so app.use, tell my app that, hey, please use router. Okay, so router is being used in here, and you can see this router is just what we created here. So with this in mind, you can actually do some, requests like, .post and all that. So in here, you can then define what particular endpoint you want to connect to. Maybe you are pulling in, because we are doing to do, maybe you are doing some tasks, right? So this should pull in all tasks for you, okay? So this is going to help you pull in all tasks. Then you just pass in a valid, express handler here and say that, hey, when someone tries to connect, let's get the request, and then we will respond accordingly. So in here, we are simply going to say that console.log the particular request that the person is trying to do. So over here, we could do database, connections and everything, manipulate our data. But we're just going to say that, hey, you got here. All right, so I'll pass in maybe a message, and I would say that connected, or you got here, or you got here, any of it. Okay, so with this in mind, when anyone visits, a Postman, when anyone uses Postman to try to make an, a request to this particular endpoint, we are simply going to have, the person served with, connected. So this is port number 3000. Okay, so I'm just going to call the local host and possibly say port number 3000. Okay, so to learn more about, building good Node apps, you can actually check on katifran.com. And Maxim also has one good, tutorial he did, which I learned from. So with this in mind, you can actually make a push endpoint, request to this particular endpoint. If we did everything successfully, then we should have connected, right? Okay, so we need to connect to the particular endpoint, which was a task. Let me see. So what are we missing in here? Let's see. Okay, I'm going to go back to here. Try to see what we are missing. So we have localhost, we have port number 3000, and then we have task. All right. So this should be way easier and way better ways for us to connect. Let me see. What are we not doing right? You probably might have even figured it out before me, but this is actually a better way to always, oh, you know what? We actually have router, but have we actually put in router into our application? So this is a good lesson, right? That you should always remember to require, the files that you are creating within your setup to exist within your, your application. So good lesson learned. Let's always make sure that we have, put in our setup file and we'll be good to go. So I'm going to end this lesson here. And my name is Dawood Iddris. If you want to learn more about Node application, web application in general, just keep in touch with me on Twitter, everywhere. That's my name. But on YouTube, I actually run sessions as well. So we were pulling in the router. So we probably would do something like / go to the setup and say that we need, that particular router. And you can even see that we messed up by putting the router elsewhere. So it doesn't even exist here. So that means we need to jump a pay step, backwards to be able to catch up on that particular router. All right. So let me see. Is my time up already? Yes, it's up. If you have any question, drop it in the chat. I will try to answer, and we'll be on the same page. But hopefully, this is way better to connect to your database. We separated a file called database, and then also we had a URI connecting with the connection string. The best way to actually do it is actually to store it in your environment, variable, so that you just connect. You don't expose this to everyone, okay? And if you want to actually add one last thing to your application, which is actually a gitignore file to help you not to push everything, you just have to create a .ignore file, gitignore file, and then come to your browser, visit this particular URL, and then you would see series of files, which gives you all the files that you can ignore whilst you are pushing to source control. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for this great session, Dawood. Really nice. Yeah. We have one question from the audience for you.
Awesome.
Does Cosmos DB access need any firewall ports opening? For example, yeah?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, right?
Yeah.
Now, the point is that whilst we were trying to access Cosmos DB, we're going to hit some error, right? And the error that we were trying to actually hit is actually going to be called being the fact that, we are not connecting securely to our database right now. So we could go to firewall, and then, in here, we can open, to selected ports. so that not everyone is able to make API requests right now to my database. All right. So I could click on add my current IP address, and then I will add that particular IP address over here, right? So you can see it in here. Then I could just click on save to save this particular IP address. So that was a good question. You have to make sure that you are opening it to specific endpoints, but because I'm actually in the development mode, that's why I added this. When I'm going on production, which is pushing my code online, I will make sure I don't, I delete this. Okay, so that's a good question there.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this session.
Welcome.
Yes, really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. I hope I wasn't too much speed, like Flash.
No, it was perfect.
Okay, all right, awesome. So I suppose if there is any question in the chat, I can answer it, but I think our time is actually up. I'm always available online. I'm happy to do this. You can connect with me. Thanks to everyone who joined in. Thanks to Hank, the Azure Thursday, and also Maxim and everyone else, Kathy, and all my folks on MSP Inspire.
Thank you,
very much. And enjoy your next year of being an MVP.
Thank you so much. I would love to, come here before I end my term again. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.